Hello everyone, welcome back. So, I've been talking much about internships and my experience in said places. And now I'm gonna talk about our internships over. I can't say internships on a global scale, I'm just talking about like fashion internships, right? Especially those in magazines. So, in the first video, I talked about a scenario where I was looking on Ed 2010 and there was an internship for a particular high fashion magazine that says 4 days a week, gotta have a monthly Metro card. I didn't really dive deep into that. But if you really think about, you're asking someone 4 days a week, unpaid, with a monthly Metro card, that's probably like $100 something. 4 days, $100, unpaid. Not everyone can do an internship like that. If that's a barrier of entry, only very small few people can do that. And usually those people doesn't have my complexion. So that's a problem within itself. So of course, when you go, especially for me, when I would go in a lot of other magazines and I would see a lot of people, I never understood why until many years later. I had to reflect on my experience and see that a lot of, especially black people, we don't have, not all black people, because there are definitely black people who are like thriving and who are financially abundant or whatever, don't have that type of time or that financial stability to be somewhere, especially in New York City, 4 days unpaid. I couldn't do it. I worked, here was my schedule. I worked, I think my schedule was internship on Monday, class on Tuesday, internship on Wednesday, class on Thursday, class on Friday, and I had my part-time job. Then I had my part-time job again on the weekend. I had to do the whole cycle all over again. A lot of those interns didn't have a schedule like mine. A lot of them didn't have to think about work. I remember one time I was like, I remember saying, I have to like go to work or was something. One of the interns was looking at me like, work? Job? Like, I don't. And it's because like she was able to live in New York City. She was able to, get a monthly Metro card and didn't have to worry about work or anything like that because her family come from money. So it's okay for her. Right? And I think it comes from a lot of, and I was grateful and happy that I was able to do 2 days out of the week, right? But you have like these barriers of entry that is made for people of especially wealthy privilege, and a lot of the people who have this wealth privilege, white people, and it's not usually black people. And I think that's where the disparity comes in of when you see a lot of these magazines and these internships, a lot of them are white folks and not a lot of black. I mean, I've definitely interned with like a handful of black people in 3 of my internships. I would have to say, out of all the internships, Teen Vogue was probably the most diverse. I think 2 of the black girls that I interned with are like big shit right now, which is like, listen, amazing. But Teen Vogue was probably the most diverse when it comes to like different races. There were whites, blacks, Asians, Latinx. It was great. But that's if that's your gateway into coming into this magazine and learning about the industry, that you have to give it 4 days unpaid. Not a lot of people, especially from a diverse perspective, is able to do that. So that's a huge problem. Number 1. Is it different now? Of course it's different now. Okay, well, okay, the next point. There was a class action lawsuit that happened. I forgot the girl's name. I'm going to put the article in the description. I forgot her name. But it happened at HARPER'S Bazaar. It happened within, I think, a year or 2 or 3 years after I finished at HARPER'S. How I know this is because I was bombarded by lawyers sending me papers to sign up for this class action lawsuit. They sent papers to my home. When I was at HARPER'S, there was no paper trail. Like I didn't get in touch with HR. No one knew my address. But these lawyers, by whatever, found out my address, my home address, and sent papers to my home address. for me to send pictures. They send me emails. They contact me on LinkedIn. Like how, I don't even know. But that lawsuit was basically there was an intern that basically worked like 5 days out the week. She, according to articles in her testimony, she was doing the work of an assistant, but unpaid. And so she, of course, I think after she realized that she wasn't getting a job, she was just like, oh, you had me out here 5 days a week doing a job without paying me, and y'all not going to give me a job? I'm calling my lawyer. And that's what she did. And did the case get dropped? I don't know. But after that whole situation, the industry kind of changed their internship program, the internship processes. Because internship process. Now it has to go through HR. They have like a very strict like regime of an internship, which I think is great. I think it's needed. I think it probably will help more people understand the business. Because a lot of times, I would like to know the business. I had to educate myself outside of my internships that I had, which I think is kind of backwards. I was there. I didn't have time. When I asked, they were like, that's not important. I'm like, this is a business. I would like to know what's going on. But, you're an intern and you have to say very little, which is a problem within itself, but whatever. So the thing with internships, especially now, right? Internships, it's unpaid. And then if just say you're an amazing internship, you get promoted to an assistant. Usually these assistant roles, their salary is so little. It's probably like 30 grand, 30 grand. Yeah, 30 grand, 35,000 a year. Again, we live in New York City, tri-state area. That's not a living wage. And then like the hours. I remember one of the assistants I was working, she got there super early and left late. Like, listen, talk about not having a work-life balance. And I understand sometimes people are like, oh, you gotta work hard. It's like, okay. But there have to be, like, you gotta have your sanity at the end of the day. Like, that is just nuts. Then to be making very little. Like, again, a lot of those assistants can financially do that because they either married into wealth, their family is from a wealthy family. So they can spend all day, all night, making very pennies at a time and still financially be okay. My black ass, just say if I was making $3,500, I probably need a part-time job to make ends meet. Like, in New York City, girl, that is just nuts. But I think now let's fast forward into everything that happened the past few weeks. Again, today is October 29th. The whole George Floyd happened, I believe in July, and it opened a lot of people's eyes into disparity between black people and white people, especially the wealth disparity, which is a real thing. And there is a story, this happened, I think, Adam Rappaport, he was the former editor-in-chief of Bon Appetit. And this story kind of fucked with me because I understood, right? So he had a black assistant, and during the pandemic and the shutdown, she asked, hey, can I get a raise? I guess he said nothing, did nothing. Then the George Floyd situation happened. Condé Nast gave $1 million to like a BLM movement, which is great. Now, of course, if I was the assistant, I too would be like, oh, y'all have $1 million. I want my raise. Obviously, there's money. His response to her, according to the reports, was, oh God, he's like, this industry is not for you. And that, when I tell you, I was so pissed. I was so upset because that's the thing, right? It's like, and I think she couldn't pay her rent. I think she was behind on her rent. And that's the thing. If you think about, I think, and I remember telling a family member of mine, the reason why he probably said this industry isn't for you is because he probably never had an assistant beg him for a raise. He probably never had to ask for a raise, right? A lot of those people in those high profile roles come from wealthy backgrounds. So asking for a raise, being behind on the rent, he probably don't know anything about that struggle at all. And so for her to be like, hey, can I have a raise? Can I have a raise? I'm behind on my rent. He's probably like, girl, what is this? Why are you asking me this? Why are you asking me that? He probably have no idea. And I feel like that is a huge disparity in the fucking industry that is just needs to be dismantled. There's so much privilege that you have to dress this certain way, you have to look this certain way, and it's like, lady, I am making $3,500. My rent is like $1,000. This life is just like, I get zero money after this. How am I supposed to be walking around in designer? How am I supposed to be doing all of this, making rent, when you're not giving me a lot of money? And I think that's a huge thing. Even Anna Wintour, in a recent article, she even said in her memo like a few weeks ago, like, you know, she hasn't made space for Black creatives. I mean, it's water wet. Like, who was surprised? Like, no one was surprised by that. But like, for her to acknowledge her lack and her kind of holding accountability to the fact that she never really did that, I think it screams of what the overall industry is, right? Just like, you know, they wasn't really seeing it for a lot of Black creatives. We are out here. Black creatives are out here by abundance, right? But we can't do 4 days a week with a monthly Metro card of $100. You know, we can't survive in this New York City streets on $3,500 salary. We just can't do that. We can't do that and be rocking 1,000, you know, all of the Pradas and the Gucci's and Louis and all that stuff to like impress y'all. A lot of us, we can't do that, right? And I remember during the whole George Floyd, after the aftermath and the protests, there was this challenge called the Vogue challenge. And it was a bunch of like Black creatives posting their own like cover of Vogue. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And like, it's so beautiful, but it was also so sad, because a lot of those people, a lot of those creatives would never, ever even be able to put their fucking pinky toe in the door of Vogue. And that's a God honest truth. And that's the sad part. Like, they literally have to be like, you know what, there's never gonna be a chance in hell that I ever get to see a Vogue office. At least let me pretend and put myself on this cover, on this fake cover. And that's the sad part. Like, they're like, the disparity is like so huge of like how they view us Black people, and how they make it accessible to like everyone. They don't make it accessible. It's like, literally, without saying it, you have to like, you kind of have to be white, okay? You kind of have to be white. Of course, there's exceptions to the rules. There are also different people. There's Edward Interval at British Vogue. There's Andre Leon Talley. There's all these amazing editors right now. But even Anna Wintour, and I'm going to use Anna Wintour as an example because she is kind of like it starts, you know what they said, the fish stinks from the head. There has been reports of like, she would ask people that she interviewed, you know, what does your father do and where do you vacations? Listen, that is a very privileged, a very wealthy, in the words of Andre Leon Talley, a very colonial thing to ask someone. And usually when you're asking someone, you're asking that because they're coming from a family of wealth, a family of stature, and you know, and a lot of us Black folks ain't coming from wealth, and we ain't coming from a thing of stature, okay? We don't really vacations that much. We working, we have to pay our bills, you know, we have 3 jobs, 2 to 3 jobs, you know, vacation what, girl? Okay, we have to like, my father, oh, he works in the service industry, you know, on his feet somewhere, like what, like, you know, but that's kind of how the industry runs. It's like this very elitist, like you gotta come from like this wealth and fabulousness and all this stuff, and it's like not everyone has that. However, that doesn't translate into creativity. That doesn't translate into ambition. And as you know, what thrives in this country is Black creativity. So yes, we may not be able to do 4 days out the week. We may not be able to accept a job 30,000 a year at a Vogue magazine because that's fucking cheap. But we can, as you can tell, in this country, in this new wave of technology, put out bomb ass content without the aid of a Vogue, without the aid of an Anna Wintour, without the aid of any of these fucking establishments. We can still do it, and we have been doing it. And if you see that Vogue challenge, you understand what I'm saying. Talk about, you have people who are wearing fabulous clothes, some of them that they made themselves, doing their hair fabulous, makeup, all of these things that are huge inspirations that I know Vogue is going to fucking turn their shit and put it on one of their Carly Klosses or Bella or Gigi Hadid and call it like the next spring trend. Like, let's be honest, okay? Okay, so that is it. This video is like 60 minutes long. Oh my god. But thank you for listening. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you could figure out what magazine I was talking about that asks 4 days a week with a mental card, let me know in the let me know in the comment section. Bonus points for anyone who could figure it out. Thank you so much. I talk to you guys later.